Okay, so I posted an article to my academia site. Well, it's too long. The link is too long to put in the chat, but I put it in the video description for this live stream. And I in the title of the article I mentioned the replacements, and it's really about Bob Stinson. I had noticed he worked at the same restaurant in by the university that this philosophy of science physics professor worked at. Um, the restaurant has been there a long time. I don't know if it's still there. I never ate there myself, but and I thought that was an interesting coincidence because so then I was looking at the professor's books again. His name's Alberto A. Martinez, and he did his PhD at University of Minnesota. And I discovered that after I was reading his book on kinematics about Einstein's relativity, and it's a really fascinating book. I did a blog post on it a while back when I read it, and when I read the book, he mentioned how he had worked at this Italian restaurant. And I got the book on interlibrary loan, so I could not look up what he did because Bob Stinson was the dishwasher at the restaurant, and that's the same time that the Replacements formed as a music group. And um, and so I've been researching the Replacements recently, just because I grew up with that music when I was a teenager, listening to it, and then being influenced by it, not realizing. I mean, I knew it was a great record, Let It Be, and the surrounding records around that. But yeah, so at the time, I just knew them as a really great local hardcore rock band, and um, now and then it was just announced that there's a movie being made about the Replacements based on um, the intense biopic book about the band by Bob Murr called Trouble Boys, and so I just ordered that book on interlibrary loan, also along with Peter Jesperson's memoir, and he was even the Replacements called him like a fifth member of the band because he was their manager at first, and he was the one that signed their record deals and discovered their sound and promoted them endlessly. And I did a blog post on him also, because his dad had worked for this British magazine distributor out of Australia, but they actually had they were focused on England, and then they turned to Canada and the US as their main market for magazines. And Peter Jesperson, his dad actually hooked him up to try to sell a rock rock magazine that featured the Sex Pistols, the punk band. And so Peter thought he could sell 1,000 copies of this new magazine in the Twin Cities to promote the Sex Pistols, and I guess he didn't achieve that goal, but it just shows that he's got a lot of interviews on YouTube too. He ended up moving to Los Angeles after his success with the Replacements, and yeah, so I ordered his book also, and of course, again, I grew up with the Orphopus. He that was the record store. That was the basis for trin tritone or twin tone. Sorry, twin tone, the record label starting up. And yeah, I grew up in that neighborhood, so I always saw Orfolk Joke Opus, the record store, and I always wondered what it was about. I went in there a couple times, but just to check it out. I never really bought anything there. Um, and just part of the music scene in Minneapolis, and um, you know, myself being deeply involved in the music scene. Another thing is Bob Stinson had a bench dedicated to him where I used to go fishing all the time, and there was a video posted on YouTube about that. I actually made a playlist of the replacements videos, but so it's kind of like I was really into fishing also and music, so it's like I kind of have a lot in common with Bob, despite the fact that he had this troubled upbringing and he basically became a drug addict. And the other thing is there's a video on YouTube where the bass player for the Magnolias, was close friends with Bob and also doing hard drugs with them. And Bob had told this bass player of Magnolias, what Magnolias were another Minneapolis like post punk band. Um, I used to see their name a lot, and I never listened to them, but I started listening to them on just listening to them now on on YouTube, and yeah, they were really cool. They sounded cool. Um, really great guitarist, two guitars, and so I mean, I'm just like rediscovering the Minneapolis music scene because I was part of it. I mean, I was really intensely into music, obviously, and so there's this bench that was put in for Bob Stinson to dedicate to him, but this bass player for the Magnolias says, yeah, he Bob told him he got some really strong heroin, and the Magnolia players was like, well, you're gonna have to try it out, and that's when they found Bob's body 2 days later. So they insisted that Bob had died of organ failure and that there was a needle found next to his body, but that was just for insulin for diabetes. But in fact, this guy says, well, you know, the guy who made the video was very close friends with Bob Stinson also, and actually was like helped take care of his son. And Bob was had been really upset about his son because both he and I guess the ex-wife is still around. I don't know, but yeah, there's another guy who was friends with Bob Stinson because his ex-wife played in this other guy's band, and at the Uptown Bar, he made a video at the Uptown Bar right before it closed. Yeah, but anyway, so for me, growing up in that neighborhood, with the Uptown Bar, I grew up in right right by Uptown, but actually on like the outs where Bob used to fish. So like where he liked to fish, I actually like to fish in that same spot too. So I mean it's very possible that I saw Bob and or we crossed paths in our time in Minneapolis. Um so there's going to be this new movie out about it, but just want to thank people for continuing to check out my research on my blog because that inspires me to reread my research and reminds me of my research and my claims. Good morning. Yes, I am in a very like weak, loose, full lotus right now. Um, and then of course I'll be reading Trinity Lynn's new book. Have you got his new book yet? Um, I haven't read it like word for word yet. I'm currently finishing like 3 or 4 other books. I finished, Jesus from Outer Space. That was a good book. And yeah, so Then I just harvested like 12 pounds of wine cap mushroom last night, and that was a real adventure. I had like a pack of wild coyotes that were I thought they were gonna come and attack me. So I quick like grabbed this tree trunk that had fallen that was in the forest floor, and I like broke off part of it so I could maneuver in case I needed to like swing it at a pack of wild coyotes. But and then by the time I was done with that, they had run away, and I had a headlamp on because it's getting dark out for sure. But I was kept harvesting the wine cap mushrooms, and I didn't realize they were a few days old because we had some thunderstorm that I didn't notice. It was overnight or something, and then I was busy the next day, and so there was these fly gnat larvae in the mushrooms when I was cooking them. I just noticed these little white larvae, and I'm like, oh great, because I handed out. I distributed like 6 pounds. No, I stopped doing Dow bums. I there's no that site kind of got taken over by the trolls. So that's why I left the Dow bums. But it was fun. I mean, I didn't to be honest, when I started posting online, it's been downhill ever since. Like my energy was the highest before I ever posted anything on the internet. I just used the email, and then I started posting a blog. And there's some guys in Brazil right now that they were reading my blog. This fellow was reading my blog. That was 20 over 20 years ago, and he's been a correspondent ever since. So he got into qigong because of my original posting on this. There was a website called Guerrilla News Network, and that's what I originally started posting on. And that website got shut down, but they were journalists like activist journalists. Yeah, yeah, Dow bums. So you posted there. Um, what was your handle on Dow bums? I would have maybe I recognize you, but yeah. So I definitely learned some stuff on Dow bums. There was a few posters that were very knowledgeable, and but in terms of my experience of meditation, people were not able to answer my questions. Like I could find nobody there able to answer my questions, and that's when I realized. And what Qigong master Jim Nance he told me, that I've had some very very rare experiences, and that's solely because of Chen Yulin's ability. So Chen Yulin, he starts from like the highest level of qigong, and so because I was took his classes at a young age and I really dove into it and meditated like 6 hours a day at first, I was able to have some very rare experiences that Jim Nance confirmed. I mean, he that's what he told me straight up. He didn't I didn't wasn't asking him about that, but um and so when I got online, I was already like coming down from some really rare experiences, and nobody online could teach me about it. Well, that's kind of you. Yeah, I don't know if I mean it's it's been fascinating. So anyway, I'm gonna sign off now. And look, just saying, keep your eyes out for this new replacements movie that's being made about music in Minneapolis. And yeah, Qigong Master Jim Nance, he was part of the music scene in Minneapolis also. And then he was also in the meditation scene. All right, you too. Take it easy.